they changed their mind because they were like, no, we can't do that because we have huge CAD files that are just going to cost too much money to house in the cloud. So they decided against that, which was wise, you know. I get why they did that. You know, they can't house everything in the cloud. It's just not possible, you know, depending on the type of work you do. But if you just have some Excel spreadsheets and you're just going to keep it in a OneDrive, yeah, sure, and you share it off with people in the office, that's fine. Real estate company, something like that. You could do that. You could definitely do that. That's not a problem. That's totally doable. But CAD files, no. I mean, you're talking like 2 terabytes of data, you know, sometimes more. Like with this architectural firm, they have 6 terabytes of data. I mean, that's a lot of data to be housed in the cloud. How are you going to do that? You know, the expense that you're going to spend monthly is going to be quite high. You know, the monthly is going to be high, definitely. Cloud environment is not cheap. Yeah, like I was getting involved in another friendly competition with the scooter, and I fucking did the right turn. Sometimes you make the right move, man. I went to the right, he went to the left, he got totally jammed up. I took the right, and it was the right way to go. It's not always right, though. Sometimes you go to the right, and you're fucking done. And I went to the right, and I just totally scored. Yeah. So the cloud thing, it's not for everybody. I mean, I watched it with telecom. People went in the cloud for everything, and then they started to say, holy shit, we're paying, you know, $20 per user. Bring back in that SIP server, you know, that voice server, so we can just add users when we want at will. We just buy the phones on Amazon. You know, that's really what it's all about. When you put everything in the cloud, you just add your monthly onto that credit card, and they just bill the shit out of you, and you don't know what you're always getting for a monthly. So the big push, throw everything in the cloud. Yeah, Amazon, you know, that's what they want you to think. But that's not always right. I mean, throwing everything in the cloud has an added expense, and they have servers to maintain, and they will, you know, their servers are mirrored and backed up. I mean, they're re-mirroring every time they detect something, you know. So they have a lot of back end too, because they can't do it half-assed. You know, when you're just maintaining one server and taking backup drives off site like I do, you can pull it off. Amazon can't wing it like that. Amazon has to do it right or don't do it at all, because they got thousands of customers on that, on that virtual server, and you can't just wing it. You're gonna have to do it right and make sure you have protection in place so that if something attacks the server, the virtual server, you can just quickly go to a snapshot for a previous image, just re-image it, and boom, done. The customer said, we got fucked up at Thursday night and they were wrong, and you bring it back to that, and it's still fucked up, you just bring it back to the day before. But all this stuff is not, you can't wing it. And I don't think anybody's expecting anyone to wing it, but as far as like shit goes with the cloud, I've experienced that for years, because I've been in this game work for a long time, and people have been talking about the cloud for ages. The cloud thing has been a huge thing. The push for it has been on all angles, and in the early, I shouldn't say early, the cloud thing was there was a big push on the telecom part. There's been waves of it, but the reality is that people started to realize what the cost, and people are in tune with that fact. Hey, listen, if you have 6 remote offices and you have files shared amongst each other and they're not big, then going cloud is good. You do 365, and why bother? I mean, you just go cloud, because if you don't have big files and you got 6 remote offices and people are connecting in, you just want to put everything in 365 and call it a day. That's the way to go. But if you're like this architectural firm, they have people working all over the world, but they have huge CAD files. They're not going to do that, because they're going to put themselves in a bind, with the cost. It's just going to come back and haunt them. And I think they started to realize that. The president said to me, listen, I would just love to go in the cloud, because it would totally eliminate cost and, unfortunately, eliminate you. Not entirely, because you still need an admin to do stuff. But you wouldn't need nearly as much. But it's just a problem, because if you do go cloud, for example, and let's say you do get some sort of ransomware, if you don't have the added contract to protect you, you're not going to be able to get Microsoft tech support to really do much for you if your 365 files get ransomware. It's just going to be a problem. Like, you're going to lose your files. You're going to be on the phone for hours with Microsoft, and if you get a good person on the phone, who will help you, a person that will help you, that's fine. But if you don't have a person who can help you, and they can't return you back to the previous version that you had, you're going to be fucked. You're not going to be able to get back to the files that you need. And that's going to be the problem, trying to get back to previous file versions. Whereas this architectural firm has like 6 terabytes of data, I back up weekly and put their files into, off-site. So if there's a fire or anything, it's disconnected from any way for someone to ransomware. So if the ransomware attack happens, it's not going to be able to do anything to their backup file. That's key to the whole scenario. You've got to make sure you have disconnect from your backup files, because these ransomwares, they get to everything. Whatever's connected on the server, network, whatever, they just encrypt it, and they just leave you a text file on the desktop saying, if you need for access to your files, please follow this instructions. And I don't even know. I've never opened up one of those because I never had to, thank God. But I always had a backup. You don't open those files. You don't negotiate. You don't talk to anything, because any kind of communication you establish with them is just one more link for them to get you. You can't do that with them. You just have to cut your losses. Let's say you had a contract. Let's say the disconnected backup is being done every week, and you have a $500,000 contract that you had signed, but unfortunately it's not in that backup. You might have to cut your losses, because are you really going to negotiate with these ransomware you're going to negotiate with them to pay for that file? That's a risky ass thing to do. Very risky, actually. I mean, I do know one company that I do know of that actually paid a ransomware. But it doesn't. It's not a good feeling, because you might get access to your files, but you don't know how long. What if they put something on there that's going to track all your files and they have access to everything? That's also very risky. I don't know if I would trust that. Actually, I wouldn't trust that. That would be a big no-no for me, to be able to trust people having access to the files. But these ransomware attacks are getting more aggressive and more complicated, so you got to keep the backups very simple. I mean, you don't have to have expensive backup software. You just have to make sure that your backups are not anywhere near your server, not connected. So you rotate your backups like the old school backup. I mean, that's what saved this architectural firm when they had a ransomware attack. I went ahead and I did a disconnected backup for them, and I was able to restore them, to their previous version, and everything was fine. It was a week old, but they didn't mind. They weren't really missing all that much. So I think that was really critical, but it's such a common sense thing. You don't want your backups to be connected on the server, because they can encrypt that. Synology has nice setup though. Synology drives, those are really nice. They have the backup is invisible from the file system, the backup drive and all that stuff. So you don't have to worry about a ransomware attack on a Synology drive, because they can't get to it. And not unless they hack your admin password. They could just fuck up all the files on the Synology and then do a backup. So it'll back up your fucked up files onto the drive. So that's not a good, so you still have to have a disconnected drive, but a simple ransomware where, for example, they don't get the admin, but they somehow get the shared network drive that everybody deposits their files, and that gets encrypted. That's not a huge big deal because that won't get, you can just restore your backup. But you always have to be ready that maybe they get the admin account. Maybe you had like a text file on the shared drive that says administrator, network admin, whatever, and it's got all the passwords. The office manager put it all there. They get it, and then boom. A lot of times they take time to look through all the files. So they don't really get to it right away. Sometimes they do the encryption right away, and then they take your original files and take a look at them to see what they can find. But that takes time. That definitely takes time. They gotta go through it all, check it all out, see what's valuable to them, and then see what they can use. But that's later. The original initial ransomware is very quick. They gain access to something, shared files, and then just encrypt it, so that you can't access it. Put a text file on there, and then Monday morning you come in, or the next day, whatever, and you can't access the files, and then you go from there. But that's how it works. And I found if you just keep things real simple with this ransomware, you can protect yourself. And that goes for anyone. Like, if you have files on your computer that you use for your yearly taxes, and you've got pictures and stuff that you can't afford to lose, you just get like a 4 terabyte drive, buy it on Amazon or wherever you want to buy it. Get something brand name that's not some knockoff, and then do your backups to it. Even if it just means dragging and dropping all of your files, but if you want to do more sophisticated, you go to Control Panel and do an image backup. The image backup is nice because if they do encrypt your computer with ransomware, you really can't use it again. It's not safe. It's not going to be safe to use it. Even if Windows is still operating, they're hoping that you're going to use it so they can wreak havoc on you later. They leave Windows operational, so you might be tempted to use it, but you're going to have to whack that computer. You go to reset Windows and delete all files. That's the only way you can really get squared away from this whole thing. But the ransomware, it attacks everyone because a lot of it must be automated. So, they don't necessarily know, this is just, like a little small business being operated out of a house, has no files of any value. They don't look at things like that. Their scenario is whatever we can encrypt, we'll encrypt, and then charge the customer for unlocking it. That's the way it works. I'm gonna get gas when I come back. I think this might be the one. 5.4. Okay. Flatbush. Yeah, that's the one. What's up, Kenny? I'll just pop this on the curb, right? Can I go over here?